Good afternoon. I have to go to work at like 10 o'clock, but I'm awake and I'm bored and I'm having an anxiety attack because I don't have anything to do. So I'm going to make some content. Hi, how are you doing? It's been a minute. Now, I know I did make some content over the past few months and I deleted it, but that was more so for personal reasons. But don't worry, I'm going to make a Cliff Notes version of that very soon, and it will not be deleted. And that's not an action that's going to happen on this channel any further. From now on, I said what the fuck I said, and we're just going to move past it. Anyways, today's topic is the sexy concept talk, hence why I'm shirtless. And it's about the sexy concept in K-pop. What happened to it, how's it evolving, and if it's coming back. Hopefully it does. If we can get groups that don't have 14-year-olds in them anymore. Because allegedly the Korean government said that companies now have to debut idols that are at least 18, but the company said that's ridiculous because that cuts out a lot of the idols that they were planning to debut. That cuts out sort of a target audience, and let's be real, it cuts out a demographic that they're catering to. Okay, we have uncle fans, and no matter how you try to spin it, it's even if it's a cultural difference, let's be real. It's kind of weird that we kind of normalize the fact that there are a specific group of grown men that are obsessed with young idols and cute concepts. Some of these groups, let's come on, pedal bait. Anyways, um, yeah. So in Gen 2 of K-pop, the sexy concept was pretty normal. It was pretty universal. But the way Gen 2 idols were able to develop was completely different from Gen 3 and Gen 4 idols. Gen 2 idols were more so human. I said this in a previous video that Gen 2 idols acted like your friends when no adults were around. So they were able to be catty, they were able to be bratty, but then when they needed to, they showed face. It felt very relatable. So in some moments, they were even crass. Remember, they talked about things that you would talk about with your peers. So it wasn't as cleaned up as Generation 3 was. Generation 3 was if you and your peers had to put on a face in front of everyone else. So you couldn't be as, not explicit, but you couldn't be as chaotic. You couldn't be as brazen with each other as you could in Gen 2 because now you have other people watching, people that's probably not going to get your vibe. Like we had Girls' Generation, who was the nation's girl group, had Soo Young ask Taeyeon on a live interview what color her panties were. You think they could get away with that now? You think they could get away with that during Gen 3? No. Imagine Twice doing something like that. No. But also the idols were able to age naturally. So because it wasn't just about selling them as a certain archetype or selling the growth of an idol didn't just depend on their demographic. If an idol was getting older, they would get older, their music would develop, their sound would develop, and their image would develop in a more mature way that came naturally. Think about it as when you're a teenager and you're growing up, right? And the adults are around you, letting you try more adult things, more adult aesthetics because you're growing up. You're growing into a nice young man or a nice young woman. That changed in Gen 3. In Gen 3, they wanted these idols to appear as teenagers for as long as possible. Why? Because one, it catered to a more conservative audience. Two, K-pop was getting bigger, so they had to put on a face for the world. So they couldn't get away with certain things. And three, some companies kind of made a few missteps that made everyone had to reel it in, okay, so that K-pop could be more respected and so that they wouldn't cause any more controversy with the Korean general public, because since it was getting bigger, it was becoming a bigger representation of the Korean people as a whole. Kind of how what anime is doing for Japanese people in the West, I suppose, for clout. That's what K-pop is doing. And you gotta get together. And it's funny because when you get to the sort of